Henrique lost it ahead. It got on to Kovalchuk, and Kovalchuk a shot that's carefully played away by Lundqvist. Now Ponikarovsky with it. Two-way front block there. Scramble for it there. They poke away at it. Still it's loose. Poked out by Kovalchuk. They score! Henrique! It's over!
Welcome, everybody, to the Puck Drops here. And the next episode of we are revisiting a team that's my personal favorite, the 2012 Eastern Conference champion, New Jersey Devils. This was a team, after a one-year hiatus of the playoffs, that had been through the playoffs 6 years in a row, that came through as a 6th seed, not division winners at any part of the time. They finished 6th in their conference, in the Eastern Conference, and they were 4th in their division behind the Philadelphia Flyers, Pittsburgh Penguins, and New York Rangers. They really had to overcome issues through the season. Now, their roster is a bunch of older-time forwards like Steve Bernier, Eric Balton, Ryan Carter, David Clarkson, Patrick Elias, of course, the veteran, Steven Gianta, rookie center and Adam Henrique, Cam Janssen, the St. Louis native, Jakob Josefsson, Ilya Kovalchuk, who was turning into a bona fide superstar in New Jersey, Brad Mills, Nick Palmieri, big-time captain Zach Parise, Rod Pelly, Alexei Ponikarovsky, the Ukrainian winger, Tim Sisito, Peter Sikora, who is back with the New Jersey Devils, Matthias Tedenby, Stefan Villiot, Travis Sajak, who a big-time forward with a sniper shot, had been there since 2006, Steven Zalewski, Vladimir Zakharov, and Daniel Subris. On defense, it was not the same defense they used to have in their cup-winning years, but Mark Fane, Curtis Foster, Mark Frazier, the captain and Andy Green, Peter Harold, Adam Larson, who was a second-year man, Bryce Salvador, the veteran, Henrik Talandier, Matt Tormina, Alex Urbaum, Anton Velechnikov, the former Hurricane, and Marek Zidlicki. Johan Hedberg, the former Thrasher, was their backup goaltender, and Martin Brodeur continued to be their starter and their superstar in net. As the 6th seed in the Stanley Cup playoffs, they played the Southeast Division champion Florida Panthers, a big defensive team. We're headed with goaltender Jose Theodore, the former Canadian goaltender, and that was how they were. And Bank Atlantic Center in Sunrise was where the season series started in the playoffs. New Jersey knew they had to get to Theodore quickly, and with super patience and efficiency, and they got 38 shots on him. Florida had 26 shots on Brodeur in a losing effort. 6:31 into the first period, it was Elias who got the first Devils goal. Zubris scored to make it 2-0, 14-11 in, and the eventual game-winning goal by Ryan Carter, unassisted, a steal, 14:56 in to make it 3-0 Devils. In the second period, Florida got their only 2 goals, 7:44 in by Sean Bergenheim and Chris Versteeg, 15:42 into the second. But that would be all she wrote as Brodeur held the fort and one game to 0 series lead for the Devils. Florida took over game number 2 at home with the 4-2 victory. The Devils overtook the Panthers again in shots with 25, but Florida had 24 on Brodeur, scoring 4 times on him, and the Devils only got 2 goals past him. Stephen Weiss, 23 seconds in to the first period, made it 1-0 Florida on a power play goal. 1:12 into the second period, as it was already 1-0 Panthers, Weiss made it 2-0 Florida. 14:39 into the second, Marshall Gach made it 3-0 Florida. And then 48 seconds into a third period, already down 3, Sajak made it another goal for the Devils. And then 2:02 into that third period, Ilya Kovalchuk cut the lead in half, 3-2. And with a second left, as the puck was being cleared down the wall, Fleischman lifted it into the empty net, making it 4-2 Panthers. And the minute that puck went in, rats were raining down in Florida like the old times in the 1990s. It had been a long time, 2002, since the Florida Panthers were in the playoffs. So that tied the series for the Panthers, and they went back up to Prudential Center in its second playoff year of building. New Jersey got 25 shots on Theodore in this night, and Florida had 26 shots on Brodeur in another one-goal game and another winning effort. 33 seconds into the first period, Parise scored off one side to make it 1-0 Devils. Steven Gianta, 3:27 into the first frame, made it 2-0 New Jersey. And then 6:16 into the first, Patrick Elias made it 3-0 Devils on a power play. But in the first period, Bergenheim got his second goal of the playoff, 16-11 on a power play chance. Jason Garrison, with 8 seconds left, another player of that area, made it a one-goal game on a power play. And then Mike Weaver, 2:18 into the second, third straight goal, tied the hockey game at 3. And then with 6:34 into the second period, Brian Campbell got the game-winning goal for the Florida Panthers, making it 4-3 Panthers and giving Florida a 2-1 series lead, heading back to game number 4. And in game 4, the Devils, trying to tie the series back down south to Florida, not wanting to be in a 3-1 hole, overtook the Panthers again on shots on goal with 27, and they were really able to get Theodore on this night, the most efficient they had been. Florida had 26 shots on Marty Brodeur, but he was the Superman status that he could be, stopping every single shot. No goals in the first period, but 6:08 into the second, Parise from passes by Marek Zidlicki and Travis Sajak on a power play made it 1-0 New Jersey. Stephen Bernier, 2:02 into the third, made it 2-0 New Jersey. And 3:35 into the third, Sajak made it 3-0 Devils. 8:32 into that third frame, on a power play, Kovalchuk made it 4-0. That would tie the series at 2. Florida, in game number 5, knew they had to come through with force and dexterity, and they had 33 shots on Marty Brodeur and got 3 goals past him. The Devils had 30 shots on Jose Theodore, but this was his time to shine, and he stopped every single one of them. No goals in the first, and again, the Panthers struck first. Chris Versteeg, 4 minutes into the second period on a power play. Scotty Upshall, 13-17 into the third, made it 2-0 after it was already 1-0. And with 4 seconds left, and with, no, not 4, but 34 seconds left in the third period, Tomasz Kopecky, shorthanded, lifted the puck over the Devils' power play unit and into the empty net, sealing a 3-0 win. And then the game went to Game 6 back in New Jersey, with the Panthers trying to win their first playoff series since 1998. The Devils got an outstanding 42 shots in an overtime game winner against Jose Theodore at home. The Panthers were only able to muster against the Devil defense 16 on Marty Brodeur, but gathering 2 of them past the Devils goaltender. With less than 4 to go in the first, Steve Bernier drew first blood for New Jersey. 4:21 into the second, Ilya Kovalchuk made it a 2-0 hole with passes from Peter Shikora and Travis Sajak. 7:05 into the second, Chris Versteeg cut the lead in half for the Panthers, his huge series continuing with his third goal. Sean Bergenheim, 12:49 into the second, tied the hockey game. And then in overtime, Parise played one off the wall to Kovalchuk, who was able to find a streaking Sajak, who lifted a top shelf on Jose Theodore. And that would end the game in overtime for New Jersey and set a Game 7 back in Bank Atlantic Center for the Devils and the Panthers. New Jersey, in a double overtime game, got 36 shots past Theodore on Theodore and 3 goals past him. Florida had 45 shots, finally winning the shots on goal on Marty Brodeur, but only scored 2 times and did not win the 7th game. 129 into the first, Henrique made it 1-0 New Jersey, and that was his first goal in the playoffs in his career. Steven Gianta, 9:15 into the second, made it 2-0 Devils. But then the Panthers fought back at home, 5:02 into the third. Stephen Weiss on a power play cut the lead in half, and with 3:32 left in the third period, Marshall Gock tied the hockey game on a power play. It would go to double overtime, where Clarkson would play behind the Florida net. He'd give to Ponikarovsky, who would wait for a streaking Adam Henrique, who waited for Bergenheim to dip, and then Henrique shot one top shelf that completely missed the blocker side of Theodore and went in the goal. And the Devils won their first playoff series since 2006. And then the series would be ended by Henrique's wonderful goal, and they would go play a team that they had not played in the playoffs since 2004 in the Philadelphia Flyers. This is a team that was a road team that ended up beating the Pittsburgh Penguins in the first round in 6. And so there they had a game 1 meeting against the Flyers in Wells Fargo, the first time that arena was to be played in. Philadelphia in another overtime game against the New Jersey Devils, New Jersey's third straight overtime game, had 36 shots on Marty Brodeur in a victorious effort, and the New Jersey Devils had 26 shots on Ilya Bryzgalov, and it was New Jersey who struck first, 3:16 in. It was Parise from Elias. Then 8:07 into the second, Briere's 6th goal of the playoff year tied the game for the Flyers. James Van Riemsdyk, the great pass by Eric Gustafsson, 8:44 in, made it 2-1 Flyers. And then 13:53 into the second on a power play, Sajak tied the game for the Devils. 4:19 into the third, Giroux enlightened the hometown fans, making it 3-2 Flyers. And then Shikora, with his first goal as a Devil since 2002 in the playoffs, made it 11:22 in the third and tied the game at 3. Then overtime would ensue, and what an overtime it was. There was a similar play as that had happened in the previous series with Florida with New Jersey, where the puck was lanced near Brodeur and the puck went in off of the skate of Briere, but it was deemed to be a complete kicking motion, canceling the goal. 2 minutes later, the puck was pushed to the blue line, and from the low blue line, 4:36 in, Daniel Briere pumped a shot after Van Riemsdyk was able to pull behind Brodeur, and it went off a Devil's stick, and Briere pumped the puck right through the Devils goaltender, his 7th goal of the playoffs, 2nd of the game, and gave the Flyers a 1-0 series lead in the playoffs against the New Jersey Devils. New Jersey needed some luck and some help against Philadelphia at home, and they finally were able to do it. They got 35 shots on Ilya Bryzgalov, with the Flyers only getting 20 on Brodeur. Marty only let it in 1. It was the first 2:53 in by Matt Reed, and the Devils were able to pummel Bryzgalov. It was still 1-0 Flyers into the third period, but Adam Larsson got his first playoff goal. The defenseman shot one past the Flyer goaltender to tie the game. Then David Clarkson ended up getting the eventual game winner at 11:17 in, giving the Devils a 2-1 lead. 14-1 in, Travis Sajak gave them a 3-1 lead, and an empty netter by Bryce Salvador, shorthanded, emptied the box and tied the series at 1. For the 4th time in 5 straight playoff games, the Devils were going to play past 60 minutes. And in this game at home, with the series tied at 1, they peppered 31 shots on Bryzgalov, with the Flyers getting 28 on the goaltender Brodeur. But again, for the 3rd straight game, the Flyers struck first. Well, 2nd straight game, Flyers struck first. Braden Shen, 6:08 in, his 3rd goal of the playoffs, power play goal made it 1-0 Philadelphia. Patrick Elias, 12:33 in the first period on a power play goal, made it a tie. Ilya Kovalchuk, 12:53 into the first, made it 2-1 New Jersey. Matt Carl, 4:44 into the second, tied the game for the Flyers. 7:29 into the third, Parise made it 3-2 New Jersey. 11:04 into the third, Danny Briere tied the game for the Flyers. And then it went to overtime. And in overtime, after the Devils were moving it on a great drive by Kovalchuk, he misread the puck and it got deflected out of the zone by Briere. But the Flyers tried an immediate line change, and Kovalchuk was back on the puck, and he let it off the boards, a lead pass to Ponikarovsky, and he shot it, and there was a save by Brizgalov, and then he's able to score 17-21 into the overtime, giving a 4-3 win to the New Jersey Devils and a 2-1 series lead heading back in Game 4. Game number 4 is even more dominant by the New Jersey Devils, trying to take a 3-1 series lead back to the city of brotherly love. And in a regulation game, in a 4-2 win, they had 43 whopping shots on Brizgalov, 22 shots by the Flyers, 2 goals by the Flyers. 11:50 into the first, Scotty Hartnell scored first again for the Flyers. 13:40 into the first, Giroux made it 2-0. Scotty Hartnell's on a power play. Giroux's on a shorthanded. Shakura scored his second goal of the playoff year, 15-14 in, on a power play to cut the lead in half. Marek Zidlicki, with less than 2 minutes remaining, made it 2-2 for the Devils. Daniel Zubris, 17:47 into the second, got the game-winning goal, making it 3-2 New Jersey. And with 45 seconds left in the third, his empty netter sealed the deal, sending New Jersey to Wells Fargo with a chance to clinch. And clinch they would. New Jersey had 30 shots on Brizgalov that night, and Philadelphia getting 28 shots on the goaltender Brodeur, but the Devils would end up winning. And for the fourth time all series, Maxime Talbot for the Flyers were able to score first, 7:18 in, but Salvador tied at 9:27 into the first period. David Clarkson, 12:45 into the first, got a steal, a second goal of the game, second goal of the series and of the playoff year, made it 2-1, the eventual game-winning goal. And with 5 minutes into the third, Kovalchuk made it 3-1 on a power play. That would end up being the big situation for the New Jersey Devils and would end up winning the game. And this entire series laid out a stat where the team to score first in every single game would end up losing every single game. This also, in my opinion, reminded me so much of the 2010 playoff series, the 9-10 playoff series, where the Devils were a highly explosive offensive team. And the Flyers, the same thing on this part, that banded together as a group, but they just fell flat in the playoffs and they couldn't start an immense offensive team. And at that time, it would end up with the losing of 2 great squads. As what happened in New Jersey, Philadelphia just fell flat on their own offense. And the more complete team was able to win, as it happened in 2010, would happen in 2012. But the New Jersey Devils went to the conference final to face the East's best team, a team they were super familiar with, and a team that they hadn't played. They hadn't played in the playoffs since 2008, but a team that they had played in the playoffs this far since that incredible 1994 team. And it was the New Jersey Devils against the New York Rangers in the conference final. And it would be very much overwhelmingly New York Ranger hockey in Game 1. The Devils couldn't get much speed going, and they only had 21 shots on Henrik Lundqvist, and he stopped them all. New York had 28 shots on Marty Brodeur, and they got all 3. All in the third period, although there were 2 goals specifically on Brodeur and only 1 is in empty net. 53 seconds into the third period, out of a scoreless 1-2, Dan Girardi got the Ranger crowd up and roaring. Chris Kreider, 12 minutes into the third, made it 2-0. And with 1:27 left in the third period, rookie Artem Anisimov made it 3-0 New York and gave the Rangers a 1-0 series lead, and the Ranger fans delirious. In Game 2, New York wanted a stranglehold heading back to the Rock, and the Devils wanted to get a series tied. They overreached the Rangers on shots on goal in this game. They got 27 shots on Henrik Lundqvist in a one-goal game, where the New York Rangers would have 25 shots on Marty Brodeur. 13:39 into the first on a power play, the fourth power play goal by him in this entire playoff year, and sixth in the playoff year, Ilya Kovalchuk scored. Mark Stahl tied the game 2:23 into the second. He had had a great playoff year against the Washington Capitals the previous series. He tied it. Chris Kreider, 12:19 in, gave the Rangers a 2-1 lead. And then with less than 2 to go in the second period, Ryan Carter tied the game against the New York Rangers. The eventual game winner, 2:31 in, would be David Clarkson. And the Devils would tie the series at 1 and head to Prudential Center, where it was almost an exact replica of game number 1, where the Rangers would overwhelm the Devils and take them down. The Devils had 36 shots on goal, whopping on Lundqvist, but he was a superstar. New York had 22 shots on goal on the goaltender Brodeur, and they scored 3 of them. 2 again, as one of them was again an empty netter. 3:19 into the third, Dan Girardi again was able to quick start and get a power play goal for the Rangers. 5:16 into the third, Kreider made it 2-0. Then Ryan Callahan, 17:47 into the third, got an empty netter and made it 3-0 in favor of the Rangers. The Devils tried to tie the series back in Prudential Center in Game 4, and now they got the kind of output they were looking for. This was not a one-goal game, and they were able to win. With 30 shots on Henrik Lundqvist and 29 shots for the Rangers on Marty Brodeur, Brodeur only let up 1, and Lundqvist ended up letting 3 go, including there was an empty netter. 8:10 into the first, Bryce Salvador made it 1-0 Devils. 11:59 into the first, Sajak made it 2-0 Devils, and this was the first game all series that New Jersey struck first. No goals in the second, and 2:41 into the third, Zach Parise on a power play made it 3-0 New Jersey. Ruslav Fedotenko got the first goal of the playoffs and first goal as a Ranger in the playoffs, 14:55 in, to make it 3-1, and then Zach Parise, with 1:29 remaining in the third, made it 4-1 Devils and effectively tied the series. Then in Game 5, with a series tied, it was back to Madison Square Garden, and New York had 28 shots on Brodeur, scoring 3 of them, but the Devils had 17 shots on Lundqvist, but they were on a goal rampage. 2:43 in the first, it was Gionta who scored first. 4:13 into the first, it was Patrick Elias to make it 2-0 Devils. 9:49 into the first, a Devil onslaught, 3-0 New Jersey. 15:41 into the first, the Rangers finally had come back with Brandon Prust. 32 seconds to the second period, lead was cut by Ryan Callahan. And 17 seconds into the third, with a 5th goal of playoffs, Marian Gaborik tied the game. But then the eventual game winner, 15:36 into the third, scored by Ryan Carter to make it 4-3 Devils. And with 32 seconds remaining in the third period, the captain Parise iced it with an empty netter, and New Jersey headed back home with a chance to go to the Stanley Cup final, And the last time New Jersey had played the Rangers with the chance to go to the Stanley Cup final at home, it did not end well with them with the whole Mark Messier debacle in 1994. So the Devils were not taking, as history had shown, this any lightly at any case. Ryan Carter, 10:05 in to the first, made it 1-0 Devils. As Clarkson played on the power play later, 13:56 in, with Zubris stashed into the middle on the side and gave Kovalchuk a ripper where he boxed right in his wheelhouse to give a 2-0 lead to the Devils, something they would give up, however. Ruslav Fedotenko scored his second goal as a Ranger of the playoffs and of the series, 9:47 in, to cut the lead in half, and Ryan Callahan, 13:41 in the second, the captain, would tie the game for New York. But then it would go to overtime, one of the most memorable overtimes in Devil franchise history. Adam Henrique off of a stash shot from Alexei Ponikarovsky and then one on Kovalchuk as the puck was being jarred along the side of Marian Gaborik and a sprawling Henrik Lundqvist. Henrique stashed the puck in and scored with the famous Henrique "It's over" call to end the Rangers season and send the Devils for the first time in 9 seasons to the Stanley Cup final. There they would play a team that was an 8 seed and won on the road against the Vancouver Canucks, the Phoenix Coyotes, and the Nashville Predators, the Los Angeles Kings, St. Louis Blues, and the Phoenix Coyotes. The 8-seeded Los Angeles Kings, and the series would start in Prudential Center, where the Kings would continue their road dominance with their stellar goaltender in Jonathan Quick. LA got 25 shots on Brodeur, scoring 2 of them, including the overtime winner. The Devils had 17 shots on Quick. Colin Fraser, 9:56 into first period, made it 1-0 for the Kings. Anton Velechnikov in the second period, with only 1:12 left, tied the game at 1. And then 8:13 into overtime as Justin Williams played off of a jamming Devils stick, created it across and made it as Kopitar pulled through 2-1 Kings and an overtime winner for the Los Angeles Kings. Almost a similar story in game number 2 with the Kings up 1-0. The Devils had 33 shots on Quick, and the Kings had 32 shots in a victorious effort on Brodeur. 7:49 in on a breakaway in the first. It was Drew Doughty with his 3rd goal of the year to make it 1-0 Los Angeles. Then the brilliance of Ryan Carter continued 2:59 into the third to tie it for the Devils, and 13:42 into the overtime off of another steal and another broken play on a line change. A guy the Devils were very familiar with because of his years in Philadelphia, Jeff Carter, won the game for the Los Angeles Kings in overtime and sent the Kings back west to Los Angeles with 2 games and 2 wins in hand. The Devils were absolutely outmatched at home and on the road in game number 3, where they had a low amount of shots on Quick, 22, didn't score a single one. LA had 21, but they were able to score all 4 of them, all on Brodeur. 5:40 into the second, Martinez made it 1-0 LA. 15:07 into the second, Kopitar made it 2-0 Kings after a scoreless first. 4:15 into the third, Carter's 2nd of the series and 6th of the playoffs on a power play made it 3-0 LA. And 6:47 into the third, Justin Williams made it 4-0 Kings, and that would ice the game and send the Kings up 3-0, heading back for game number 4 at home with a chance to win the Stanley Cup. And the city was going crazy. The fans were boisterous, but the Devils made sure that it was not going to happen. They had 24 shots on Quick. And, well, they had 24 shots. Some of them on Quick, scoring 2 of them, as well as an empty netter. And LA had 22 shots on goal, only scoring 1. 7:56 into the third, after 2 scoreless periods, the situation was hyped, and then Elias scored his 5th goal of the year, first of the series, to make it 1-0 Devils. 8:56 in the third, 2nd goal of the series for Drew Doughty, 4th of the playoffs, a power play goal to tie it. Then Adam Henrique ended up getting the game winner, 15:29 into the third, his 4th goal of the playoffs and first since beating Henrik Lundqvist in Game 6 of the Eastern Conference Final to make it 2-1. And with 20 seconds into the third period, Kovalchuk smashed the puck into the empty net, making it 3-1 Devils and sending the series back to New Jersey, and the Devils still alive for at least another game. And play on they would. In the Prudential Center, the Devils got their first home game win of the playoffs since Game 6 against the New York Rangers. They got 19 shots on Jonathan Quick. LA had 26 shots on the goaltender, Marty Brodeur. And 12:45 into the first period, it was Zach Parise on a power play off a steal. But then 3:26 into the second, Justin Williams quieted the New Jersey crowd, making it 1-1. But 9:05 into the second, Bryce Salvador scored the game winner, 2-1. which would eventually end the Kings' ride on Game 5. But Game 6 would happen. Devils trying to go down from 3-0 down, become the first team to end up doing it in the Stanley Cup Final since the Maple Leafs in the 1940s. But it would not to be the Kings would dominate game number 6 at home. They would get 25 shots on the goaltender, and the Devils would have 18 shots on Quick, only scoring once. The Kings would score 6 times. 11:03 into the first, after a very controversial power play that was called charging on the Devils' Zubris, and he was in for the box for 5 minutes. Dustin Brown made it 1-0 Kings. Then Jeff Carter, 12:45 in, would make it 2-0 LA. 15:01 in, Trevor Lewis would make it 3-0 Kings on a power play, and that was 3-0 heading into the second. 1:30 into the second, Carter would make it 4-0 LA, and 18:45 to the second with only 1:15 to go, and Henrique would finally score for the Devils, but that would be it for New Jersey. 16:15 into the third, Trevor Lewis would make it 5-1, and 15 seconds later, Matt Green would get another goal to make it 6-1, and that would be all, and LA would get a coronation of a championship for the first time in their 40-plus year history. But what a magical year for the Devils that could have been. The 0-3 and everything else. The 2 overtime games in Game 1 and Game 2 really killed them, because if you look at it, the Devils really would have had a chance to win if it were not for those games. The beauty of Jeff Carter and the beauty of Andrei Kopitar, who was an absolute horse that whole series and that whole playoff year. But you have to praise the Devils for what they did and not sulk. And what a great season it was. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Doing revisitings. Next revisiting we're going to do is the 2013 Boston Bruins Eastern Conference champion team. Hopefully you guys enjoy that. And that, of course, being the last time the Bruins won the Eastern Conference before this season. Hope you guys have a good day, good afternoon, and happy hockey.